Welcome back, Pauper players, to another Salt and Pauper Saturday video. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoons with me. We are going to be taking a look at the new metagame. If you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't heard, but Monastery Swiftspear has officially been banned in the Pauper format. And today we are going to take a look at the new metagame, what it's shaking down into, and what you can play to replace it. So let's take a look at today's featured deck and let's get into the games. All right, today we are going to be looking at a variation of Walker 735's Sticker Goblin Burn. This is a variation on Kuldotha Red that is not running any Monastery Swiftspears. So you'll see this is a fairly standard Kuldotha Red list, except we have replaced Monastery Swiftspears with Name Sticker Goblin. This allows us to have a big burst of tempo on turn 3 or turn 2, sometimes even turn 1 with multiple Lotus Petals, to drop a ton of power and early game pressure onto the board. We still have your standard 6 draw spells from most Kuldotha Red, and 4 synthesizers to kind of make sure that we never run out of gas. But the big addition is Name Sticker Goblin. Ultimately, we are on a modified Kuldotha Red variant. This is a 17 land build. We have 13 mountains and 4 Great Furnace. We have 4 Lotus Petals, 4 Lightning Bolts, 2 Seal of Fires as some main deck hate against Glitters. We have 4 Goblin Bushwhackers, 4 Goblin Tomb Raiders, 4 Kuldotha Rebirths, 4 Voldaren Epicures, 3 Goblin Blast Runners, 3 Impulse, and 3 Ren's Resolve. But ultimately, you just want to run 6 of these cards. You can run any combination that you have. 4 and 2 is pretty common. And then we have 4 Experimental Synthesizers and 4 Name Sticker Goblins as the namesake for Goblin Red or Sticker Red. Going into the sideboard, we have a couple of cards here. We've got some Red Elemental Blast. This is a 4 of. We have 3 End the Festivities. We have 2 Relic of Progenitus. We have a single Seal of Fire, so this is a 3rd Seal of Fire that can come in against the Glitters matchup. We have 3 Flaring Pains. This is against a lot of the pro-red creatures, Prismatic Strands, Moment's Peace, all those things. Then we have 2 Makeshift Munitions. This is largely against Gates, because that can be a troubling matchup, and this is just a really good card against those. That is the deck, guys. Very simple, but let's show you the power that Red still has in this format and jump into some games. All right. Game number 1. This is against Deluxe Ikoff. We won the roll, so we are on the play. Unfortunately, we have an unkeepable hand, and then we have a very keepable hand. We are going to keep this. We're going to throw back a Sticker Goblin here. Unfortunate, but I think that's the correct play. Ultimately, we have a Lotus Petal double land Sticker Bushwhacker Kuldotha. We really just want to lean into the Kuldotha Bushwhacker here. We don't want to get rid of this Lotus Petal because it enables a turn 2 against some of our faster opponents. But we don't want to throw away this Lotus Petal in case we don't hit a 3rd land on curve, and we don't have any redraws in hand, so missing a land would be super punishing. Otherwise, we definitely keep double Sticker, double land Bushwhacker Kuldotha. I think that's how we're going to run it in the future, but for this one, we keep the Lotus Petal just to make sure that we're able to go off on turn 2 if we want to. And let's start the game and see what happens. All right, we're going to lead with Mountain into a Lotus Petal. We just don't want to get Spell Pierced with this Lotus Petal, so we're going to run it out early. It does tip our hand a little bit to the opponent, but they just play a Crystal Grotto and pass the turn. Pretty sure this is Tron from that play. Not a whole lot else plays that. We just play a land. We draw a land, so we don't really go for it here. But opponent just plays a Infect creature and passes back, which is really strange. We're going to go ahead and rip the Sticker Goblin into Kuldotha into Bushwhacker here. Go ahead and swing in, hit for 8. Opponent blocks the sticker and plays a Priests of Norn, which is pretty unfortunate for us. Fortunately, we're going to top deck a little bit of action here. We're going to hold back our attack, obviously attacking into a 1-4 here. Not really the play. Opponent gives it pro red, which is pretty brutal. We're not going to be able to get rid of that thing ever. Fortunately, we topped out absolute gas here. We hit another Bushwhacker, which is perfect. We swing in, deal another 8. The opponent goes to 4. We have a Seal of Fire here, so we really just need to hit a burn spell. Opponent does have 3 blockers up, so we can't deal lethal on board quite yet. We hit a mountain, which is unfortunate. We are going to force the chump blocks here. Opponent goes for the triple block. Attempts a Benevolent Blessing, but we use the Seal of Fire. Would have liked for that to go to the face, but it is what it is. We deal 1. We keep one of our blockers. Opponent plays a Sentinel Eye. Just passes back with 1 card in hand. We hit a Goblin Tomb Raider, which is fine here. We're going to attack before we play the creature, just to see if they maybe don't block it. But then we play a Tomb Raider. We're going to take another 2 here. Top deck another land, which is pretty brutal. Can't attack there. Otherwise, we just lose both our creatures and we're pretty much cooked. We go to 8, and unfortunately, we take the L in this game 1. Opponent was able to just barely escape there. We just hit too many lands. We hit 7 lands and a Lotus Petal, so we are going to regroup and go into game 2. Alrighty, the sideboard plan here, we take out a couple Seal of Fires. They don't seem super useful. We take out a couple Blast Runners, and we take out a couple of Mountains. We bring in the we bring in the End the Festivities here, and we bring in the Flaring Pains. This is a pretty common sideboard against white. In general, they run a lot of 1 toughness creatures, and this is true here too. We saw a lot of 2/1s. And then Prismatic Strands is their primary thing, although they do have some other damage prevention. And we saw they had protection as well, so Flaring Pain really going to come in clutch there. We are on the play again, so we're going to go ahead and be on the play. And unfortunately, we see a no land hand here, not keepable. We see a 1 land hand here, but there's really not much else we can do. So unfortunately, I think we might have to throw that back too. This is a much more keepable hand though. So we're going to put 2 back. We're going to throw the Flaring Pain back. We don't really need that right now. And we're going to run it with a Wren's Resolve and a Synthesizer and a Rebirth, just so we have maximum draw potential, try to get ourselves out of this. But that is the starting hand. Let's go ahead and run it out. We're going to lead on a mountain here, just a mountain. Don't want to resolve this Synthesizer in case it whips a spell we could have cast. So we're just going to land into Wren's Resolve here. Don't hit land, which is pretty unfortunate, but we do hit another Wren's Resolve, which is great. Opponent leads on a 2/1. There's a little bit of a clock, but we should have time. Have lots of 1-drops here, but elect to just go for the Wren's Resolve. We hit a land and an End the Festivities trying to kill the opponent's creature, but they use an Orin's Cure to prevent the damage, which is pretty clutch. Glad we got that out for just a single End the Festivities, though. We top deck the Flaring Pain a turn late, which is kind of sad, but is what it is. We lead on a Synthesizer. We do hit the land drop, which is great. We're going to go ahead and just load up the board here. Do swing for 2. And we're going to leave a blocker back just in case. We do have Flaring Pain here, which is pretty interesting because if we can ever get this Leonin to block, we're going to be able to use the Flaring Pain from the graveyard. We sack the Synthesizer for Kuldotha Rebirth and see a Blast Runner, which is great for us. We're going to play the Lotus Petal, so this our Tomb Raiders have plus power. And then we're just going to beat in for huge here. It's a really big swing. The opponent's just going to block and go to 2. They're going to show us an Unearth for the Benevolent Bodyguard, but we are only at 4 poison, so they are dead. Opponent very clearly on mono white Infect, which is definitely a fringe deck, but still showing the power of this deck and its draw power. All right, game number 3. We have the same sideboard plan. We take out the 2 Steelifiers, the 2 Blast Runners, the 2 Mountains. We bring in 3 End the Festivities, 3 Flaring Pains. And we're going to go ahead and run with it. We're on the draw this time. But this is a very interesting keep. It allows us to turn 1 into a draw spell and then turn 2 into a draw spell should we need to. So I'm pretty sure this is a keep. We're going to have a lot of cards available to us. We're just going to run it with this. Hit a Bushwhacker, which is pretty good to go with this Synthesizer into ideally a Kuldotha. We go ahead and Ren's Resolve. No land, which is pretty brutal. But we do still have a Lotus Petal, so we can still cast another spell. We hit a land, which is fantastic. We're going to cast this Ren's Resolve. We're going to Lotus Petal into a Tomb Raider, swing for 2. We hit another land and another Ren's Resolve, so we are going super deep on cards here. Opponent just plays a tap land, passes it back. It's definitely not what the opponent wants to be doing here. It Ren's Resolve. Shows us some lands off the top. We do have Synthesizer into Rebirth, into Bushwhacker next turn, which is pretty good. Opponent has a Priest of Norn. We're just going to lead on Synthesizer. Shows us another mountain. It shows us a Great Furnace. We're going to sack it. It shows us another land, so good thing we're getting rid of all those. We're going to go ahead and Bushwhacker and swing now. Very easy turn. Opponent's just going to block it up. And then uses another Orm's Cure to prevent some damage. Goes to 11, so it does throw our math off a little bit here, but fortunately we're on a very slow clock. They're just hitting us for 1. We're going to go for the Name Sticker Goblin here. We hit Tomb Raider. We're going to go ahead and just cast this Flaring Pain with a Lightning Bolt up that can be played. So opponent is going to go for this Benevolent Blessing. We're going to Lightning Bolt before it resolves, and then combat damage cannot be prevented by that protection, so it is going to kill the Priest of Norn. It's got a recommission for the Priest of Norn to come back, but this is very lethal. With optimum blocks here, the opponent isn't dead, but they even have an Orm's Chant to prevent some damage. Now, we could have definitely flashed back the Flaring Pain there, but it wouldn't have been lethal. So we just kept our Flaring Pain in the sideboard to make sure we could set up in case we drew anything else for gas. We're going to go ahead and attack here. Opponent is going to go for Prismatic Strands, and then we can go for the Flaring Pain because we know it's safe. Once the Flaring Pain has resolved, we have the Lightning Bolt for the lethal with the 3 attackers. So we are set. Nice 2-1 against a non-standard deck for sure. Not sure how prevalent this deck is going to be in the new meta. Mono White Infect doesn't seem particularly great, even after Swiftspear's ban. So I think this is a little bit of a fringe catch, but definitely shows the ability to get through Prismatic Strands, Orm's Cure, protection spells, pro-red spells. You know, definitely a lot of hate from the opponent, but we were able to fight through it. So nice, strong showing for the deck. Let's go to match number 2. Alrighty, match number 2 against Dusty. We lose the die roll, so we are on the draw. This is an okay starting hand. It certainly could be a keep, but because this isn't a artifact land, unfortunately, I think we have to ship it back. This is a much better hand, though. Couple ways we could take this. We have 2 lands. I think the Lotus Petal is largely redundant here, although it does mean we only have 1 artifact. But we are going to ship the Lotus Petal back here, and off we go. Opponent leads on a Thornglint Bridge, which is pretty strange. We're just going to start the attack for 2 here. Opponent actually animates his Thornglint Bridge with a Brave the Wild, so he is on the Bash Brothers deck that I previewed quite a while ago. Very interesting start from the opponent, really going deep on the animate the man land plan. We're just going to load the board with goblins here. We have double lightning bolt in hand, double rebirth in hand. Really just looking for a bushwhacker at this point. Opponent has all that glitters for their bridge, which is pretty ridiculous. We're going to go ahead and make some tokens off of my land, leave double lightning bolt up to put some pressure on them. We just attack with the menace creature there, so we don't lose creatures. We're going to double bolt them at the end of turn, and we have more than lethal on board, so the opponent scoops it up. Little bit too slow from the opponent there. All right, game number 2 against Dusty and the what looks like a Bant Bridges deck. Once again, we're going to go ahead and side out 2 of the Blast Runners and 2 of the Seal of Fires. We bring in 4 Blue Blasts. We saw that they're in Bants. This list does run Kenku Artificer. Several other potential counter spells, definitely assuming they have Blue Blasts in the deck. So bringing in some Red Blasts just to counteract those. We are on the draw once again. This is a pretty keepable hand. Once again, it is a turn 1 double draw in case we would like to do that. It's also on the draw, so we can definitely keep this and hope that we hit a second land. If we don't, we can use the Lotus Petal. So I think we're going to keep it here. And here we go. Opponent leads on a bridge, which is expected. That deck runs a lot of tap lands. We don't hit a land there, which is unfortunate, but we hit a Red Blast and go for the draw spell, which is brutal because the opponent has the Blue Blast. Super punished that we didn't hit a land there because now they get to resolve a Kenku Artificer and we're just staring at this Red Blast, which is super sad. We go for the Synthesizer on the redraw, hoping to hit more land. We do, which is great. Nice to hit that land. Opponent has a Rancor for us, so they're going to start bashing for 5. We're on a pretty short clock here. We're going to go ahead and play another double draw spell. That one resolves, and we hit double land, which is fantastic. So we have effectively dug our way out of this, and this hand looks very good if we hit a Bushwhacker, and we top deck a Bushwhacker. So here we go. We're going to Sticker Goblin into Sticker Goblin, into a Rebirth, into a Rebirth, into a Bushwhacker, and go absolutely enormous. We have the Blue Blast to get rid of one of their blockers, and in we go. Turn 5, absolutely huge swing, and GG's to the opponent. This deck is definitely still strong. For those of you wondering what to do to replace your Monastery Swiftspears, if you haven't, honestly, add a land to the deck and slam Sticker Goblin in the deck. It'll work just fine. Red is still definitely a good deck. You should definitely still play Red if you want to play Red. It is far from dead, and Swiftspear Band is not taking this deck off the map anytime soon. Alright guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on your Saturday afternoon. As usual guys, if you like the content, if you are enjoying the Pauper deck techs, make sure you leave a like down below and drop me a comment for the next deck I should check out. Or if you have any suggestions on what to be running in this deck if I missed a card or you think something could work. As usual guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Goodbye forever, unless I see you next time.